The flower ceremony, or flower communion, was developed by a Czech named Norbert Čapek. I'll speak first about who he was and what the ceremony means, and then we'll complete our own flower ceremony. The following brief account is based primarily on the book by Richard Henry, Norbert Fabian Čapek, A Spiritual Journey. Norbert Čapek was born in 1870 in Bohemia, which was then a part of the Austro-Hungarian Empire. He was raised as a Roman Catholic, the dominant state-supported religion, but became a Baptist at the age of 18, and soon thereafter began a career as a minister, missionary, publicist, and composer of hymns. In 1901, he was elected chair of the Union of Baptist Churches in Moravia and Slovakia. He published religious journals and became the assistant editor of a popular literary magazine. His religious stance became increasingly liberal, influenced by the social gospel movement. The social gospel's chief proponent, Walter Rauschenbusch, taught that Christian doctrine has not evoked faith in the will and power of God to redeem the permanent institutions of human society from their inherited guilt of oppression and extortion. Čapek first became interested in Unitarianism in 1910 as a result of a meeting with Thomas Masaryk, who was then a professor and later became president of Czechoslovakia. Čapek tried that year without success to get the American Unitarian Association to support his efforts to promote liberal religion. At the beginning of World War I in 1914, Čapek moved to the United States after being advised that he was in danger of arrest by Austrian authorities because of his nationalistic and anti-Catholic writings. Early in 1915, he was tried for heresy by a Baptist tribunal, but they acquitted him. And for the next 3 years, he was pastor of the First Slovak Baptist Church in Newark. During this time, he organized an alliance of the various Slovak associations in New Jersey and was active in the movement for Czechoslovakian independence. Čapek's wife, Maja Čapek, I'm not sure I said that right, was born in 1888 in Bohemia. She came to the United States in 1907, obtained a degree from the Columbia University School of Library Science, and in 1909 went to work at the Webster branch of the New York Public Library. In 1914, she was put in charge of its Czech section, and there she met Norbert Čapek. They were married in 1917, and Maja resigned her position at the library a week after their marriage. They bought a home in Belleville, and in 1919, Čapek became pastor of a small congregation there. But in September of that year, having come to the conclusion that he could no longer be a Baptist, he resigned his pastorate. At the end of World War I, Czechoslovakia became independent, and many Czechs decided to leave the Roman Catholic Church. Čapek was eager to return to his native land and play a part in its spiritual reawakening. He and Maja decided in 1920 to sell their home to get money for the voyage. It took some time to take care of this. While they remained in the U.S., they found a church that pleased them, the First Unitarian Church of Essex County. After the children had attended several times, Norbert and Maja also visited the church and found there not only clear heads, but warm hearts too. They signed the membership book on January 10, 1921. The minister, Dr. Walter Reed Hunt, learning of Čapek's intent to return to Czechoslovakia, arranged for him to meet the president of the American Unitarian Association, Dr. Samuel Eliot. By May, Čapek had a commitment from the AUA to support his work in Czechoslovakia, He bid farewell to the church in Orange on June 5th, and he and Maja embarked for Europe on June 30th. By February 1922, Čapek had organized the Prague Congregation of Liberal Religious Fellowship, and the services were soon drawing standing room-only crowds. The Sunday sermon was repeated and debated in a Tuesday evening program. On June 24th, 1923, the first flower communion was celebrated, and Maja was ordained as a minister in 1926. For several years, the fellowship met in rented halls. With financial help from the AUA and the British and Foreign Unitarian Association, they acquired and renovated a medieval palace. That'd be cool. Yeah. In 1930, the Unitarian Church of Czechoslovakia was officially recognized by the Czech government. In 1939, shortly before the German occupation of Czechoslovakia, Maja Čapek left for the United States to lecture and raise funds for a joint Unitarian Friends program to assist endangered refugees and internees. The AUA offered positions in the United States to Norbert Čapek and to his daughter and her husband. They declined the offers, feeling it was their duty to remain with their people. The activities of the church continued during the occupation as before, though under Gestapo surveillance, Čapek was more subtle in his sermons and articles. On March 28, 1941, Čapek and his youngest daughter Zora were arrested by the Gestapo. They were convicted of listening to foreign radio broadcasts. Čapek was sentenced to a year in prison. Zora, who had not only listened to the broadcasts, but shared notes of them with someone else, was given an 18-month term. In the midst of a wave of executions and deportations of Czechs by the Nazis following the assassination of the German official in charge of the occupied country, a Gestapo officer overrode the court's sentence and ordered that Norbert Čapek be sent to the concentration camp at Dachau, returned unwanted. He arrived there July 5, 1942, and on October 12, 1942, was sent on an invalid transport, and evidently killed that day with poison gas, though his official death certificate states that he died October 30th of a cerebral hemorrhage. Maja Čapek did not learn of Norbert's death until after the war. After her lecture tour, she served as a minister in New Bedford, Massachusetts for 3 years. From 1944 to 1950, she worked for the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation Agency, helping displaced persons settle in Yugoslavia, Egypt, and Palestine. She died in 1966. Čapek introduced the flower communion in 1923. For some time, he had felt the need for some symbolic ritual that would bind people more closely together. The format had to be one that would not alienate any who had forsaken other religious traditions. The traditional Christian communion service with bread and wine was unacceptable to the members of his congregation because of their strong reaction against the Catholic faith. So he turned to the native beauty of their countryside for elements of a communion which would be genuine to them. This simple service was the result. It was such a success that it was held yearly, just before the summer recess of the church. Norbert Čapek's home and his church were overrun by German soldiers in the years of World War II. He gave his life defying their cruel occupation. But before he died, he influenced thousands of people with the beauty of his words and ideals, including the flower ceremony that he originated symbolizing the light and color and fragrance of many creeds, many cultures, and many races joining together in a bright, living bouquet. The Nazis are now gone, but the flower ceremony continues to be celebrated in this congregation and hundreds of others around the world, a testament to the power of love to withstand hate, and to the vision of a tolerant faith which sweeps the world, not by persecution or threats of violence, but by drawing people to its principles with the sweet scent of peace and freedom. Chapek wrote a series of meditations and prayers for the flower ceremony, and many more have been added by others. I would like to share 2 of these with you now. We will have a moment for quiet reflection or meditation after each one. The first is by William B. Rice, a UU minister. On a day such as this, a great change came upon us. The sounds we have been hearing have been discordant. The sights we have been seeing have been violent. The words we have been reading have been hateful. All this has been wearying, discouraging, and distracting. In our hearts, we had a dream of love, and in our minds, we had a pattern of community. But this has been a sorry season of discontent, most difficult for visions. Today is a new day, truly an hour for hope and joy and gladness. Let us be thankful for the persistence of flowers and open ourselves to their long wisdom. Often they grow in spite of terrible winters and miserable summers. Strange beauty greets us in unexpected places, as if there is a particular grace that is stronger than our carelessness and indifference. But when we tend our gardens with love and care, the reward can be greater than the effort. It is most wise to combine flowers and children in a day of celebration, for flowers and children ever speak to us of wonders and glories yet to be, of hopes fulfilled if we tend our gardens and our homes with patience and wisdom and love. Let us be silent together. The second meditation is from the UUA website. Take a moment now to contemplate your flower. Notice it has a center, a focal point from which everything radiates. Ask yourself where your own center lies. Flowers stretch up toward the life-giving sun. Ask yourself, toward what lofty aim does your own soul aspire? Flowers have roots hugging the earth. Ask yourself, where do you draw your own strength and nourishment? As we go forth this day, may we grow in beauty, in light, in cheer, and in joy, and share our gifts as freely as these pleasant flowers bloom. As we rise in body or spirit, let us join in singing our closing hymn, number 131, Love Will Guide Us.